said that had he not received such quick medical attention, that he could have died from this stroke.
Deputy Patrick Edmond was conducting cell searches at the Gwinnett County Jail when a group of inmates noticed something was wrong.
And he said that he leaned over to pick up the blanket he dropped. And when he did, he got a little lightheaded. And when he stood up, one of the inmates said, "Are you okay?" And he said, "I'm fine." And the inmate said, "No, sir, you're not fine."
Deputy Edmond didn't know it at the time, but he was suffering from a stroke.
So they grabbed a chair and had him sit down. They got on his police radio to call for help. Another inmate went to the phone to dial for help. Other inmates went to the side of the unit that neighbors another housing unit, and they were banging on the wall and the door that, is between the two units to get the attention of the deputy next door. And in fact, that deputy was the first deputy on the scene just a little over a minute later.
The deputy was flown to Grady Hospital, where he received life-saving surgery just a few weeks earlier.
Right there.
The chase ended on the agitated man's front lawn just up the street, and Sergeant Megan Pohl tried to calm him when he got out of his red pickup.
Stop.
Then he tried to get back in, and they wound up battling over the knife he had on his belt.
Wrestled for probably 10-15 seconds. He was trying to, I had the knife in my hand, the blade or the butt of it, and he was trying to get it from me.
Painter Ray Bolus just picked up dinner at Polly's and saw the chase go by. Curious, he rode his motorcycle and found the scene. Officer Paul was battling the man, and she was winded.
I put my hand on the suspect's neck and arm and told the officer, "Officer, I'm here to help. What do you need me to do?" And at that point, she had said, "Get the knife, get the knife."
He couldn't find it, but Sergeant Paul did and threw it behind them.
If he would have got a hold of that knife, it would have ended very badly for one or both of us.
We're getting our first look tonight at the bizarre fight involving a Lee County Sheriff's deputy and the suspect he pulled over in Estero yesterday. This picture, if you look closely, shows the suspect straddling the deputy as he is, as witnesses say, brutally attacking him.
And tonight we got a closer look at the face of the man who attacked the deputy, Edward David Strother, who died after a passerby walked up and shot him to protect the deputy.
4 in Your Corner's Lisa Greenberg has more about this case and where the sheriff himself is now weighing in.
He had I don't know where, came out and attacked this deputy.
What was he doing?
He had got onto him and he had started punching him and just, being very rough and wrestling with him.
Witnesses described the attack on the deputy as brutal. 53-year-old Edward Strother beating on Lee County Deputy Bardis as they were feet from his open patrol car. Investigators say earlier on Interstate 75, Strother tried to run over Bardis. It ended when a bystander, who Lee County Sheriff Mike Scott calls a good Samaritan, shot and killed Strother.
27-year veteran trooper arrived at the scene. Police say he was ambushed.
Hello, officer down outside Tonopah. Come in, please. This is a civilian.
Early Thursday morning, an Arizona state trooper arrived at the scene of this violent wreck near Phoenix. The officer, Edward Anderson, found a female victim who had been ejected from the car. She would later die at the hospital.
As the trooper exited his vehicle and began to lay out flares, it appears at this point that he was ambushed by the suspect.
Anderson was shot at least once near the shoulder and suddenly found himself in a fight for his life.
The suspect is getting the better of the trooper and is on top of him and striking the trooper's head on the pavement.
That's when a man on his way to California pulled his car over. The trooper tells the driver he needs help. The passerby grabs the gun from his truck and shoots the attacker after police say the suspect ignored several commands to stand down.
He's in real bad shape. Please send air support.
Another passerby also stops to help the wounded officer. He gets inside the trooper's patrol car and radios for help.
To the civilian on the DPS trooper's radio, if you can hear me, I need you to let me know where the suspect is.
He's been shot by the passerby. He's laying right next to the officer.
Cell phone video shows the sidewalk struggle.
I thought to myself, he get that officer gun, he's gonna kill him.
Cab driver Ray Freeman is one of at least 3 Good Samaritans who pulled over at Himes and Ohio as Officer Michael Collins grappled with suspect Louis Villa.
He started swinging at the officer. He hit the officer 4 or 5 times. And at that point, I saw the officer go down.
Freeman says that Villa was barely slowed by a taser and that his punches made the officer woozy.
I came and I yoked him, grabbed him by the neck, and threw him down, and I helped him. Then some other people came out.
Video shows pharmaceutical rep Dolores Lyle holding the suspect's legs. Freeman steps on the man's back while the third man in a ball cap helps Officer Michael Collins.
This guy was pretty strong.
Secure the handcuffs.
All I was thinking that we're going to save this man's life, that we're going to save this officer's life.
Villa is charged with battery on the officer and battery on Freeman, who says he was punched several times. The officer originally tried to talk to Villa after his description went over the radio as a suspect in the burglary of a nearby Econo Lodge.
The adrenaline grew off, and I got real scared thinking about what I did, that I could have possibly put my own life in danger.
Officer Collins, a 27-year veteran, was taken to the hospital with several non-life-threatening injuries.
My prayers are with him, and as a cab driver having a dangerous job, at the end of the day, all I want to do is go home, feed my family, and go home. And I pray that he's all right.
Just thought about the officer, and like, if I'd have drove off, what would have happened?
Vincent Williams was watching the arrest from his car, but it all went south with a punch to the trooper's face. The two fall to the ground. The driver is on top of the trooper, who is pinned and struggling. The bad situation was quickly getting worse. Then Williams pulled up to help.
By the time I got closer and I got to the officer, I seen the guy actually had his hand on his gun and trying to unholster it. So I grabbed him and I put my fist up. I said, "I'm fixing to beat your butt," but not in those words. So,
unafraid, Williams got on top of him and put the driver in a headlock.
I asked the officer, I said, "Are you comfortable enough grabbing your taser?" And he said, "Give me a second." He's like, "Hold him." So I held him and I hog-tied him with my arms and his legs.
The Good Samaritan got there and was able to help the trooper regain control of the suspect. And then after that, the suspect continued to resist, and there was a taser that was used to safely arrest the person and bring him to jail.
State Patrol says the driver, 38-year-old Matthew Cleve, was impaired, and his history shows he has several past DWIs and assault convictions. If Williams seems unfazed by it all, it's because he was a security guard for years. He's seen a lot.
I used to do security in rough areas, so it's all in a day's work, but for free for this time. So, me just giving back, I guess.
Williams said he was just glad everyone was okay in the end.
Officer Ashley Hardesty's arrest quickly turned into a wrestling match outside a Columbia gas station on Tuesday.
I saw some of her belongings hit the ground.
All Turman knew was he didn't want to see the situation escalate.
I had tunnel vision.
He says something told him to stick around.
She done did everything she could. It was going to get ugly, you know. I mean, something had to be done.
Hardesty used her taser and mace on a man accused of punching a store clerk and pulling out a knife. The man wouldn't back down.
There's something inside of me that I done seen before, and I'm just tired of seeing the violence. The next step will probably be fatal. So I think I'm trying to save his life also.
That's when Turman stepped in, allowing Hardesty to handcuff the suspect. He was quickly praised for his efforts.
Nice tackle.
She was able to get him handcuffed, and he's in jail now.
I'm an ex-criminal, you know, and it just felt good to actually have the law pat me on my back.
There's even more to Cray Turman's story. Right now, he's homeless and living at the transition shelter in Columbia. He hopes his story can make a difference.
Wow, this happened. This guy is in a homeless shelter, and he did something like this. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So I stood for something yesterday.
Are you glad you did?
Yeah, kind of, sort of.
That was good form, too. Your head was up.
The man.
This CCTV footage shows the moment a teenager waiting in a police station after being arrested in Florida dramatically redeemed himself. It's unknown what Jamal Rutledge was accused of doing, but as police officer Franklin Folks was processing the teen's records, he collapsed, clutching his chest in agony. Defendant Jamal immediately began to kick the security fence and shouted to alert other officers in the police station. Sergeant Todd Bunin was walking near the booking area when he heard Rutledge. He then noticed Officer Folks was semi-conscious, lying on the ground. Bunin quickly removes Officer Folks' police gear and cuts off his shirt. Another officer then began performing CPR. Medics say that Rutledge's actions, as well as the quick response of the officers, were responsible for Officer Folkes surviving. Both Rutledge and the officers will be publicly recognised at a ceremony next Wednesday.
Kenny Franklin's trip to work Thursday took an unexpected turn. He requested an Uber driver, and he was off and running. Then he says his driver suffered a seizure while at the wheel on I-4 near I-275.
His foot is accelerating on the gas, and instantly I'm in the back seat wondering, okay, my life is pretty much over at this point.
Franklin was able to safely get the car to the side of the road. He says that's when the driver awoke in a panic.
You know, he didn't know where he was at, so he tried to put the car into a gear. And so he's fumbling with the car.
Franklin jumped out of the car, and behind them was a Florida Highway Patrol trooper, Jack Hypes.
He starts walking up towards me, you know, to assist and assess the situation. And as he does that, the driver mistakenly puts the car in reverse and hits the officer. This side of the car hits him, and his impact was to come over here and pretty much fall over the railing.
Hypes was pinned under the vehicle.
Adrenaline is racing, your heart, you know, is going a million miles an hour, and all you're thinking about at that time is this, you know, this needs to end well.
With so much adrenaline, Franklin was able to lift the vehicle off of Hypes. He suffered non-life-threatening injuries. All three men involved will be okay. FHP commended Franklin, and some would even consider him a hero tonight.
Honestly, I just was somebody who was in a position to help in the right place at the right time, and I'm glad that, you know, I had something to do with with lives being preserved.
Would you do it again?
Absolutely, in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat.
Action after he got into a tussle with a suspect. Saturday, the officer was responding to a burglary when he came up on the suspects. Then fists started flying, as you see there. The officer and the suspect wrestled for a short while before two men jumped in to help get that suspect under control. That man had to go to the hospital for a 72-hour evaluation. He'll be booked on several charges, including assault on an officer, once he's released there.